Voters can expect a more organized day at the polls tomorrow. The PLP leader thinks taxes may increase if the FNM's reelected, and a PLP campaign worker dies outside of a constituency headquarters. Good evening, everyone. I'm Leah Cooper with your Jcn News for this Wednesday, September 15th. With the voting polls for general elections opening tomorrow morning, the public has expressed concern that the polls will be as disorganized as they were for advanced polling last week. Minister of National Security Marvin Dames and Parliamentary Commissioner Lovato Duncanson this morning spoke to this issue. Tyler Simonet has more.
Chaotic scenes seen at the advanced voting polls last week Thursday will not be seen tomorrow, as thousands of voters are anticipated to turn out for the country's general elections. Minister of National Security Marvin Dames reassuring the public that the voting process on election day will go smoothly. During a walkthrough at the A.F. Adderley Junior High School polling division, Minister Dames spoke to reporters about how adjustments have been made.
Just prior to coming here, I had a comprehensive briefing from the Parliamentary Commissioner, the police and the defense force. We would have certainly, from the briefing, it's clear that they would have made some significant adjustments from the advanced polls, and that's what it's all about. When you are conducting operations of this magnitude and nature, you always go back to the drawing board to see what you can improve on, what you can do better, and how you can execute a smooth general elections.
With COVID-19 cases added to the country's COVID count daily, and with quarantine-eligible voters given the go-ahead to leave quarantine and vote, Acting Parliamentary Commissioner Lovato Duncanson, who was also present for the walkthrough, spoke to how COVID-19 protocols will be enforced during elections.
The one thing we can say is the process has certainly been affected by the safety protocols that are required. The sanitization of the workstations, the sanitization of hands, the reduction in the amount of poll workers within the actual poll station. Those are factors that also contribute towards the slowdown of the process. But what we've done by way of collaboration with the Royal Bahamas Police Force and Defense Force and personnel are present here today is we will engage the services of the COVID ambassadors. We also engage in the services of men and women from the Royal Bahamas Defense Force to assist us with encouraging individuals to adhere to the social distancing as it relates to the lines. And so certainly we intend to aggressively address that matter in the appropriate way.
Commissioner Duncanson says one of the main complaints he received from the advanced polls were the long lines affecting elders. To rectify this, one of the provisions made for the general elections is a waiting area for people who are 65 years and older and the disabled. Some polling areas will have designated tents with seating arrangements to accommodate this category of people. Commissioner Duncanson also stressing that he and his team are aware that adjustments throughout this process have been made mandatory.
We find ourselves operating during a time where there may be individuals who are scheduled to be a part of the process, but because of circumstances beyond their control, they may not be able to be a part of the process. Over this process, we have made adjustments, we have put in place replacements, and the intent is to ensure that, God willing, on tomorrow, there will be a general election in accordance with the Parliamentary Elections Act.
Commissioner Duncanson also stressing that he and his team are aware that adjustments throughout this process have been mandatory. General elections are set to take place tomorrow, with polls opening at 8 a.m. sharp and expected to close at 6 p.m. For Jcn News, I'm Tyler Simonet.
Meantime, Progressive Liberal Party leader Philip Davis says the Free National Movement's getting ready to raise taxes if re-elected. He says this much at the party's virtual rally last evening.
But he didn't say rich ones, because there have been so many. Was it the Oban fiasco? The turbulence in fighting in his cabinet, the failure to use Dorian funds for Dorian victims, the lies about BPL investigation, the hidden pandemic spending, the billions borrowed with nothing to show for it. And why is he apologizing only to FNMs? Doesn't he owe all of us an apology? Doesn't he owe you an apology? I can't imagine his apology worked. We have seen enough from this government.
According to the party's economic plan, if elected, the PLP will reduce VAT to 10% and provide additional VAT relief for 12 months and recommend the country's minimum wage be raised to $250 per week. The Free National Movement made similar promises, pledging to increase minimum wage and implement tax-free zones back in 2015.
You from voting. They're using every trick in the book to stop you from exercising this essential democratic right. They hit a new low every day. Did you hear the Prime Minister say he was reliably informed that the F won the advance poll? It's against the law to open those ballot boxes before the voting finishes on Thursday. So either he's a lawbreaker or a liar or both. My friends, he's failing every character test that comes his way. No matter the disagreements the parties have had over the years since independence, we have never seen a prime minister behave in this way. We've never seen a prime minister deliberately suppress the vote. We've never seen a prime minister lie about our democratic process.
He adds that the party has been informed by credible sources that the Minnis-led administration called this snap election because, quote, their backs were against the wall with the country's creditors. Now, back in June, former Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands gave a grave overview of the country's financial situation, charging that the Minnis-led administration did not get here alone and that there are structural weaknesses in the economy that was created from past and present administrations over the last 50 years. The leader of the Democratic National Alliance, Orinthia Komolafe, said to Bahamians on Tuesday night during a national address on Facebook Live that the time has come for the Bahamas to make the decision who will lead the country for the next 5 years. Argerino Saunders has more.
Democratic National Alliance leader Orinthia Komolafe delivering a national address on social media on Tuesday. She noted that most Bahamians agree the country needs positive changes and a new direction. Before getting into the nuts and bolts of her speech, Mrs. Komolafe took a moment to give a glimpse of her upbringing and to address concerns regarding her last name, which is of African descent. She then went on to remind that the DNA began to roll out its platform since January of 2020.
We have committed to changing our system of government to a republic. A DNA government will prioritize the devolution of powers and decentralization of government through local and city government. Our plans for the orange, green, and blue economies will result in economic diversification and sustainable growth, which unleashes the talents of our people. Our education platform will equip our children with the skills they need, and our healthcare reform agenda will make universal healthcare a reality. We have committed to energy reform, which focuses on alternative energy sources and reducing the cost of living or doing business in the Bahamas. Our belief is that the natural resources of our nation belong to the Bahamian people and should be for their chief benefit.
Mrs. Komolafe also said the DNA will introduce an aggressive housing program to introduce home ownership and that the DNA's tax reform plans will ease the burden of the poor and the working class. Mrs. Komolafe noted that the DNA is a well-organized and established party with the hopes of a breakthrough this time around.
The DNA is contesting its third general election. For over 10 years, we have been advocating for the Bahamian people, and we have put forward plans to move our nation forward. We believe in deepening our democracy and ensuring that all arms of government are functioning as they ought to. Despite receiving over 90 applications for candidacy, we are fielding 22 candidates this election, knowing that we only require 21 seats to win the government and have a healthy opposition. I am imploring you to give us all 22 seats on Thursday and usher in change that makes sense. I promise you that we will not disappoint you.
Not knowing what was to transpire in one of the New Providence constituencies on Tuesday night, Mrs. Komolafe called for there to be peaceful elections.
As we prepare to cast our ballots on September 16, I implore you to keep our nation in prayers for a peaceful and orderly election. Let us remember that we are all God's children and that we are all one people, united in love and service. There is life before and after the general election. Despite our political differences, we are not enemies, even though we might be political opponents. Let us shun violence, animosity, wickedness, strife, and hatred. We are one Bahamas.
Mrs. Komalafe says no matter the outcome, she expects a smooth transition of power. She called on political leaders to implore that the Bahamas' reputation is not tarnished as the people choose their next leaders. Jcn Saunders for JCN News.
Over the past 4 years since coming into office in 2017, the Free National Movement government has made some sweeping changes and introduced what some would call controversial policies that others welcomed and see it as protecting the fishing industry for Bahamians. While at the FNM's drive-in rally on Bimini on Monday night, among the areas the Prime Minister addressed was that of the fishing industry and what he described as positive reports the government has gotten from fishermen across the Bahamas.
The FNM is focused on your future. We have a robust economic agenda ready for you, not if, but when re-elected. You could expect some of the highest growth rates in decades if you bring back the FNM.
The Prime Minister made a similar pledge to taxi drivers and tour operators during Saturday's rally. The Prime Minister also says the government expects to see serious economic growth if they are re-elected.
Bimini is known around the world for its fishing. Our vision is to invest more in Bahamian farmers and fishers. Many fishers have been calling me to thank the FNM for all we have done to protect Bahamian fishes and fisheries and fishers. Some of them said they are seeing an abundance of fish in many areas of the Bahamas.
That was Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis speaking at a rally in Bimini on Monday night. The FNM will be holding its final rally here in the capital tonight. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.